Captain America 1978 is the first superhero movie, and honestly, I still think it holds up. Christopher Reeves is literally perfect as Steve Rogers. His costume is like actually printed off the page, man. He both has the heartwarming smile that inspires a generation while also being ironclad and willing to fight for America. Reeves is such a good actor, he can both do this and then be Steve before he gets the experiment, and he's all awkward, and even his voice sounds just different enough you can be convinced it's a different person. And of course, the devastating scene when he gets out of the ice and he's missed out on 33 years.
I hear they call you Buck now.
Cap. For the rest of us, time moved on.
What do you hear from the guys?
Captain.
Everything I knew. Everyone I cared for.
All those powers. And I couldn't even save him.
Listen to me.
You should have left me in the ice, General.
You still have your country. And we need you now more than ever.
Margot Kidder is excellent as Sharon Carter Barnes. She bounces off Steve incredibly well. They're just really cute together. Dennis Dumfries is also perfectly cast. Just everyone in this film is perfectly cast. Like the doctor who turned Steve into Captain America. I know Marlon Brando was a major diva behind the scenes, and some people might find him kind of droning, but I think it works perfectly fine for his character. He might not have that much screen time, but he makes it count. And it's super cool seeing the Hydra agents getting frozen for the next film. Gene Hackman's Heinrich Zemo might not be the best adaptation of the character, but he's just so fun and full of himself, and all of his henchmen are really funny. And while his whole plot about snapping California off and creating real estate is unique, even if the whole two nuke things and Captain America stopping them was very convoluted. Captain America 2 is also excellent, and honestly probably one of the best sequels ever. Tara Stamps is so iconic as Red Skull. I mean, kneel before Red Skull is so iconic. And the two other Hydra agents, Sin and Crossbones, are equally fun henchmen for this film. Like in the final fight in New York, where Sin catches the shield and throws it back at Cap. And because of how hateful the Hydra agents are, they just can't understand why Steve would care about people.
He actually cares for these Earth people.
Like pets?
I suppose.
And honestly, them accidentally freezing themselves back over was a very clever way to get rid of them. Zemo and his henchman Otis make a cameo to unthaw them from their frozen machines that were found in their prison. And Steve and Sharon's relationship continues to be super cute, especially with Steve trying to remove the super soldier serum from his body so he can still be a normal human with Sharon, which kind of works, leading to Red Skull taking some of it and becoming the Red Skull. Now, Captain America 3 is a significant downgrade that tried to focus more on comedy. The last two films also had comedy, but this one is so silly they even added Richard Pryor. No, he's not Falcon or anything. He's just some computer guy who is inspiring the plot to Office Space by skimming off some paychecks from people, which gets the attention of some billionaire dude named Ross. Just some other guy, because I guess they finally gave Zemo a break. Ironically, he feels a lot like Cameron Hodge, about 4 years early. It's pretty interesting this film was a little ahead of its time because they predicted how important computers will be even in the next 30 years. And then at the end, they build this giant, almost Ultron computer that turns people into robots. Meanwhile, Steve becomes disillusioned with it all and becomes a bad boy nomad, and this is where you get the funny photo of him drinking at the bar. There's this almost kind of clever scene where Steve is fighting himself literally and metaphorically. So Steve is all the humanity and goodness, and Nomad is what he could have become if he didn't care about anything. It's almost something, but so much of this film relies on slapstick and Richard Pryor, it just doesn't really feel like they fully had their ideas. Honestly, it might even be a little worse than Captain America 4, The Quest for Peace. Because at least I can remember most of the stuff that happens in this film. Like, Christopher Reeves really wanted creative control, so they added this whole plot about Captain America forcing the world's nations to give up their nukes, which is, good intentions, but the film is way too squeaky clean about the idea that people would just give up these nukes for world peace. And even if they did, the film's not smart enough to have, like, one nation still keep them, or there still being a lot of violence even without the nukes. And I know these days this trope is super overdone, but you could have had something like Steve starts to overstate his power and start taking over the world and turning evil and stuff, and then Sharon tells him his humanity and he stops it. Zemo's back yet again, and his henchman gets replaced with a new one, Heine Zemo, played by John Cryer, who these days most people know as Sheldon from Big Bang Theory. And ironically, John Cryer will go on to play Helmut Zemo in the American Dream series for the CW. I honestly kind of like Heine, and he's this intentionally annoying teenager that's getting into all these antics, kind of like an 80s Pete Davidson. Either way, him and his great uncle are going to make a clone of Captain America. There's kind of a lot of characters in the comics like this, and they kind of mix all of them for this almost anti-America. Actually, there's two of them, because originally they made one, but he was cut because it was just that much too silly. And then their second one, Nuclear Man, who's kind of a century, 13 years early. He's almost neat, but then he gets defeated with Captain America just literally covering the sun with his shield, despite him being inside sometimes. There was a Falcon movie starring Shaq of all people, but for some reason they completely removed Captain America from it, so why bother talk about it? I feel like Captain America Returns is pretty underrated and almost a great film. Brandon Routh is very good replacing Christopher Reeves. I feel like most people didn't give him the credit until he returned in the role in the CW series. They explain away where he's been by saying he was in a coma from an assassination attempt, and the world moved on, again. And the new cast is very solid and captures the characters they're supposed to while also being who they're supposed to replace very well. Sharon moved on to raise her son, Jason, and honestly this film should have been more about Jason and C's relationship because Jason clearly has a little bit of that super soldier serum in him. The film, when it actually gets going, can be really cool, like when Captain America stops that plane hijacking. Zemo's back yet again, played by Kevin. Either way, I think he's very good as his character. He builds back as well from the last films by marrying and sleeping with widows, and I wish I was joking. But then the film plays itself a little too safe by just rehashing the first film, and he wants to build real estate, but this time on an expanding island that will soon take over all of the Americas. It was a safe move to try and bring back interest into Captain America, but probably a little too safe. But let me know your guys' opinion down below, as well as hitting that like button and subscribing for more Earth 2 shenanigans.